All right, gang, let's get rolling here. Let's talk about strength. Hopefully, you guys can give me a little thumbs up to make sure that we're rolling. Everyone can hear me. Good to go. Thank you, Tracy. Awesome. Thank you, Janny. Okay. All right, let's talk strength. So, we're in week 2 of the Fit Life Challenge. Last week was all about body composition. Michelle worked you guys through understanding your body composition results, and you entered your scores into the database. Remember, you can also start creating your own personal report card. So enter the scores at the computer at the gym, but also in your challenge guide, there's a link to start entering your scores into your own report card. So don't forget to do that if you haven't already. Um, that'll be good to do for the body comp last week. And then also for all of your strength benchmarks this week. It was great to see everyone uh, with awesome, great quality, good form and technique on the back squats on Monday. Love to see that. And of course, striving to hit their optimal benchmark targets, which is great. Um, but yeah, as you guys know, most important thing is that good form and technique, and you guys were dialed in on that, which is amazing. So today we're going to dig into our strength benchmarks, why they're important, and understanding your results so you can make a good game plan moving forward. If strength is something that you really enjoy doing and that you're good at per se, then these benchmarks are sometimes fun. But if strength isn't necessarily something you love, then these benchmarks are important just to understand why we need to keep challenging ourselves with some good strength work to make sure that we're staying strong and healthy for now and for years to come. So let's dig into it. In theory, we lose 1% of our strength each year after the age of 40. Okay. So that doesn't seem like a lot, but over a decade, that's 10%. And I would say, what we're doing so hard, like working so hard on a daily basis to keep our strength, and fight against this decrease that naturally happens. So I would say what's important to know is that the 1% decrease happens if you don't do any strength training. But if you are challenging yourself and working hard, you might lose a little bit of strength, but not 10% over that decade. So it was great to see some of our older members crushing their strength benchmarks and surpassing that percentage of body weight that they were technically targeting. So that was great. Strength or the loss of strength is one of the biggest reasons for a decrease in quality of life as we age. So I think, it's sometimes easy to overlook, but when you're younger, but as you get older, you realize how challenging daily tasks can become. And when you don't have the strength to do those daily tasks, that's when your quality of life decreases. So simple things like getting up and down off the toilet is, something we don't think of in our 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s. But then as we get a little bit older, that can become challenging. Going up and down the stairs can become challenging. Lifting up heavier objects off the floor can become challenging. So these are just some of the things that can decrease quality of life if we aren't focused on continuing to work on our strength. And I think it's important to understand we don't have to be this crazy strong power lifter. But we want to understand, and this is why we've created these benchmarks, is like, how strong do I really need to be so that I can have that functional strength that's going to allow me to do all of those necessities as I get older. So let's keep working on that functional strength. and continue to be able to do all the things we love. The decrease in strength and muscle mass also slows down our metabolism and decreases our body's ability to manage blood sugars. So this is a cool one going back to Michelle's presentation on body composition is that if we're not training strength, then our muscle mass is going to decrease at a similar rate to our strength. And when our muscle mass decreases, that's when our metabolism slows down. And that's when our body isn't, when we have a low amount of muscle mass, then our body has a harder time managing blood sugars, which creates hormonal imbalances. So, having muscle, having strength is so important for doing the things we love, but also so our body can work the most efficiently and optimally. Okay, let's talk about the different types of strength. So, you hear us talking about it a lot in all of our different programming, but there's strength, there's power, there's muscle mass, there's bone density, hypertrophy, endurance, all of these different, terms or technicalities related to strength. So, strength, power, muscle mass, and bone density are all interconnected. If we're strong, if we have power, we will have muscle mass, and our bone density will continue to be as strong as possible. So that's important that we continue to work on those first three things so that we can keep our whole body healthy and strong. So I want you to understand as we go through our phases in the year, we work on all these different types of strength. So we've had a few members say, "Oh, I really miss the heavy lifts." I know not everyone feels that way, but we do have a core group of members that really do love those, heavier, lower rep lifts. And they're reminding me that we haven't done them in a while. And I'm reminding them that as we roll throughout our yearly training cycle, we hit all the different types. So we are on our last training block of the year, which is our strength training block. Um, and then if you think back to our athlete conditioning, athlete conditioning is a combination of strength and endurance, a lot of higher reps, a lot of circuits. So you're getting that combination, but then also still the big lifts where we're working on our strength. And then summer shred, which was in the spring, that's our hypertrophy phase. So hypertrophy is actually where we're trying to build lean muscle mass. So the definition of hypertrophy is the overload of the muscle so that it can continue to grow and get bigger. So, and then the phase we're currently in, which is foundation season, is our core strength phase, which is that mid range of reps from 4 to 8 reps. And we're building a combination of strength, power, endurance, all of those in one. And then our January, February, March phase is when we work on our top end strength and our power. Okay, so each phase kind of hits a little bit of everything. If we think back to our athlete conditioning in the summer, we did have some power work with our cleans and our plyometrics. We also had some strength with some of our squats and bench press and deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, and then we had a little bit of hypertrophy with some of the accessory work that we did in that phase. Um, and then this coming phase is going to be a really good combination of strength, muscular endurance, and stamina and a little bit of hypertrophy in some of that accessory work. We're really building that foundation so that when we add in that power phase in January, February, March, we can really be ready for it physically to handle the demands of those loads. And then the last term at the bottom there is reps in reserve. So this is an important one because let's use summer shred for an example. If I do, if I'm prescribed to do 12 reps of bench press and I stop at 12, but I actually could have did 15, then I have 3 reps in reserve. Okay. So this is a tricky one because we don't want to hit failure, but we also don't necessarily want to leave much more than 2 or 3 reps in reserve to get the most out of those lifts. If you can imagine, if you're trying to build strength and you do 6 reps, which is in that 4 to 8 rep range, but you actually could have did 10, then you're not really building strength because that actually would have been a weight that you would use for hypertrophy or muscular endurance. So I want you to think about your reps in reserve no matter what phase you're in and challenging yourself, not every single set, because we have warm-up sets and building sets, but for those working sets, I really want you to think about, okay, how many reps did I have in reserve? Could I have pushed myself a little bit harder so that I only had 2 or maybe 3 reps in reserve so I get the most out of that lift? Is that all making sense? Does anyone have any questions so far about any of that stuff? If not, we'll move on. So that's all of our different phases and the different types of strength that we hit and why they're all important throughout our yearly cycle. Next up, why is strength important? Well, whether you're an endurance athlete, you're a grandparent, you're a parent, you're an avid golfer, tennis player, pickleballer, you like gardening, cooking, cleaning, or you just want to perform those basic life tasks, you do need strength. And I think for every one of these individuals, strength is a little looked at in a little bit different of a way. But what I love about our benchmarks is that I truly believe that every single one of these individuals described here, a triathlete, a parent, a golfer, um, someone doing chores, someone doing those life tasks, if they can hit the benchmarks, the strength benchmarks that we have defined, they are going to set themselves up for success when it comes to the ability to do all these things. And most importantly, do all these things injury free. Um, I was thinking about it today. I did my squats, my Monday squats today. I made them up. I was slacking yesterday. And as I was working towards my benchmark, as my training shifted a little bit to high rocks, it's become a little bit less important to have that like big top end strength. But I was thinking, even as an endurance focused athlete, it's still super important to be able to hit for me at 40 years old or just under that 1.25 times body weight for my squat. And quite frankly, if you're a competitive endurance athlete, high rocks athlete, it's important that you're able to at least hit that 1.25 times body weight um, to be a strong, healthy athlete that can perform at their best. So, strength is important, and our benchmarks are great metrics that all of these individuals can use as a baseline. Yes, a golfer or a tennis player might not need to prioritize strength, but in order to not get tendonitis, not get back pain, not get knee pain, if they can maintain that base of strength and hit those benchmarks in their 50s and their 60s, then they'll be able to do all these sports um, strong and at the highest level, but also injury free. I think of a couple ladies who were on the call that ran a half marathon, and even in their 60s or late 50s, they were able to conquer a 16-week training block while doing their LP workouts, while staying injury free, healthy, and strong. So it just shows, and these same ladies also were able to hit their strength benchmark number on Monday for their squats, which shows that their strength has helped them not only hit their running and endurance goals, but also stay healthy and strong for all of it. So that's pretty cool to see and shows the importance of it. So that's why strength is so important. Okay, this is a cool little chart that I made that shows the metrics and how this 1% per year decrease happens. So if we go over to the blue column, which is the 40-year-old, we have a 190-pound male who has 95 pounds of muscle, 200-pound back squat, sorry, bench press, 250-pound deadlift, and 300-pound squat. If he decreases, so that for him would get him all of his metrics, one time his body weight for bench, 1.5 times body weight, sorry, 1.25 for squat, and 1.5 times body weight for deadlift. Then by the time he's 50, say his weight stays the same, his muscle decreases by 10%. That would be at about 86 pounds. Back squat would be, or sorry, bench press would be down to 180 pounds. Squat would be at 225 instead of 250, and deadlift would be at 270 instead of 300. And then you can see how that trend continues at 60. Let's say he's still working hard to maintain his health and fitness. He's still at 190 pounds, but his muscle is now down to 77 pounds. His bench press is down to 165. His squat is down to 205, and his deadlift is down to 255, which are still amazing numbers at 60. So he would still be very healthy and strong at this point. And then at 70, you can see that his muscle would be down to 70 pounds, bench press 150, squat 185, deadlift 225. And then at 80, it continues. Ooh, I didn't take the muscle. So the muscle would be down another 7 pounds, which is 10%. And then the back squat, and oh, I forgot at 80 to take the 10% off. But I think what's cool to see here is with the natural regression over time, if the 40-year-old doesn't start with a good base, it makes it really hard in your 50s and 60s to build back some of that. So, why a 40-year-old or a 35-year-old might overlook the importance of why do I need to worry about my muscle mass or my strength metrics when I don't need to worry about, not having strength to do simple tasks when I'm older. But if we don't build that base at a younger age, it's very hard to build it or make up for that loss as you get older. So the female, the blue column again, 150 at 65 pounds of muscle. That would put her bench press at 115 pounds if she can hit her benchmark, her squat at 155, and her deadlift at 190, which hey, those are tough numbers to hit across the board. But then at 50, her muscle, if decreasing according to our 1% a year, is down to 59 pounds, which is still good. 60 pounds of muscle is really good. Bench press down to 105, squat down to 140, deadlift down to 170. Those are still very strong numbers, but as you can see, they're going down over time, even though she's working hard to maintain her fitness. And then now in our 60s, we're down to 54 pounds of muscle, 95-pound bench, 125 squat, 155 deadlift, etc., etc. I think I missed my 80 column again. Um, but it's really cool to see over time watching this progression, um, the importance of starting with the best possible benchmark that you can have and continuing to work hard on those over the years. So it'll be interesting to see, and I'm very excited to collect all the data from the challengers this year so we can use their data to see where our averages are for our members that are in their 40s, for our members that are in their 50s, 60s, and a few that are in their 70s. So we can see where our norms and our averages are related to muscle, related to strength. And then, of course, later in the challenge, we're going to talk about endurance. So, hopefully that's a helpful tool. I'll take a good screenshot of that so you guys can use that as a reference moving forward. So, what are our strength benchmarks? For strength this week, we're going to be doing our back squat, which most of us have already done on Monday. We're going to be doing our bench press, and we're going to be doing our deadlift, and then we're going to be doing everyone's favorite, the grip strength test. So, these movements are all compound functional movements that require us to use not just the muscles that we're using for not just the leg muscles for the squat, not just the upper body for the bench press, and not just the back for the deadlift, but we're actually using our whole body as one to make these lifts happen. We're engaging our core, we're squeezing our glutes, we're activating our shoulders and back. We're using our legs. We're driving our feet into the ground. We're doing so much, and that's what makes them these compound movements where our body has to work all as one unit to make the lift happen. And they're all functional in the sense of squatting is a very common task that we do at all stages of our life. Sitting down, standing up. Okay, that's the most basic one. Bench press, this is the one where we're required to push or pull something, okay, that horizontal pressing or lifting, which is a great test of upper body strength. Deadlift is probably the most common functional movement where we bend over to pick something up off the floor. And it's very common when we're moving or we're cleaning to be doing repetitive, lighter deadlifts over and over and over again. And often anyone with back pain um, can injure their back or throw out their back doing this type of repetitive movement. So very important to build that deadlift strong so that your body can withstand that. And then grip strength. I think this is an overlooked one. Everyone thinks grip strength is just for the hands and the forearm, but really grip strength is a test of posture. It's a test of shoulder strength and health. Okay. Elbows, wrists, essentially an entire upper body strength test. And it's a great indicator of overall strength as well, relative to your body weight. Because when you're hanging from that pull-up bar or holding that weight in your hand, you need to uh, hold up your body weight for that one. So it's also important to note that at different stages in our journey, we might have aches, pains, injuries, setbacks where we actually can't do one or a couple of these tests without pain. So it's important that we don't just avoid the squat, we don't just avoid the deadlift, we don't just avoid hanging from the pull-up bar because we have pain currently. It's important that we address that and find out why so it doesn't become a chronic, lifelong injury or setback that's going to affect us even more down the road. So, even though you maybe can't complete it this phase of testing, it's an important one to make note of and address and work with a professional physio, chiro to fix it. So here are our targets. So for bench press, which we're going to do tomorrow, Wednesday, for our 40-year-olds, we're targeting our body weight for men and 0.75 times our body weight for women. This is one of the toughest um, tests for the ladies, I believe, relative to their body weight. So this will be a great one to make note of and prioritize for some. For the guys, I told them Monday the rule is if you bench press more than you squat, then you immediately have to sign up for every Monday moving forward. Um, so as you get older, that number decreases by that 10% per year per decade. So we go down to zero point 0.9 and zero point 0.8 and 0.7% of body weight for the bench for guys. And then we go down to 0.75, 0.68, 0.61, 0.55 times body weight for the ladies. And then for the squat, we worked on this on Monday. A little bit heavier for the squat than the bench press, 1.25 times body weight, so 25% more than the bench press across the board for all ages. And then the deadlift is the heaviest one, 1.5 times body weight for the 40-year-old male, 1.25 times body weight for the 40-year-old female. And then that decreases by that 10% per decade moving forward. So these are good benchmarks to strive for and target. And if you don't quite hit them, then it's just a good reminder of an area to focus a little extra energy on. Um, the other note we make with this one is Monday we said you can do a 5 rep max, a 3 rep max, or a 1 rep max. Um, these numbers are all technically related to a 1 rep max. So not everyone is comfortable and confident doing a 1 rep max. So oftentimes we do a 5 rep max or a 3 rep max. And then we use a multiplier, and I have a calculator here that we'll share with you guys, but you can multiply your 5 reps. Say you did 100 pounds for 5 reps. You can multiply, they say that that's about 90% of your 1 rep max. So you'd actually take the 100 times 10%, and you would say that 110 pounds is about your 1 rep max. Okay. So we can, and then the 3 rep max is about 95% of your 1 rep max. So we use those calculators to help us. If we want to get, if you're really close to that metric, we can use that calculator to make sure that we're right on with it. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense for those. Um, are there any questions related to the actual tests themselves or the optimal targets or the calculator and converter? If you do, we can always talk about those later. And then next step. So how to improve your strength. So we look at these 5 different areas, and we can rank ourselves out of 5. So we truly believe that if you want to maintain your strength, 2 times a week strength workouts would be great for maintenance. 3 times a week would be great for increasing strength. And 1 time a week would be good for not prioritizing strength, let's say. So say if you only can get one strength workout a week, hopefully you're prioritizing your conditioning, and because maybe you've hit all your strength benchmarks and you're making your conditioning your priority and you're okay with a slight decrease in strength. So how, if strength is something that you want to improve on because your metrics didn't quite hit those optimal targets, 3 times a week strength workouts would really be beneficial to do that. Nutrition, protein is a huge one here. So all that strength work we're doing is going to tear down our muscles, and we want to rebuild them and repair them stronger than before. And from a nutrition standpoint, the basic grams per pound of protein per day is 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. Okay. That's a metric that you found from your body comp analysis last week. It's not your total body weight, but it's your 1 gram per pound of lean body mass in protein per day. So nutrition plays a huge part in building strength because you got to repair and rebuild those muscles. Supplements and all of these supplements listed here help with that muscle repair process. Protein is a great post-workout supplement that helps repair the muscle. Creatine is a great during and after workout supplement that's great for repairing muscles and much more. Amino acids are the 9 essential amino acids are the building blocks of protein. They're broken down into an easier to digest form, which during workout amino acids are a great addition to your workout drink. Electrolytes and amino acids are very popular for that during workout drink. And then glutamine is a great muscle recovery supplement that can be used um, at different points in the day, sometimes before bed, to help with that muscle repair process. And then sleep. Sleep is such an important one. Your muscles truly do repair and recover during sleep. And I can truly attest to the fact that with a toddler, not getting optimal sleep can really slow down the recovery process, not only make you sore, but create some crazy tired and fatigue when it comes to my training and workouts. So if you are able to get lots of duration of sleep, 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep. Um, that's fantastic. If you're not able to get that long sleep because life can be crazy busy, you want to try to really improve your quality of sleep if possible. And some great tools to do that are we'll talk about those in the recovery week, but a nice cool bedroom, a nice dark bedroom, no screen time before bed, reading a book before bed, stretching and relaxing before bed, lots of different tools to wind the body down. Cinermag magnesium is an amazing supplement that helps with that sleep quality as well. And then the last one, maybe the most important one, is tracking your progress. So we use WattUp for our workouts at the gym. And I think the key with WattUp is oftentimes we kind of forget what we did the previous week. So it's great to enter those numbers in so that you remember when you next Monday, when you look back at what I squatted and you totally forget what you squatted the week before, you can look back and say, okay, that's what I did the week before. I'm going to target, I'm feeling good today. I'm going to target hitting that number that I did last week or trying to do a little more than last week. So it's also great if you're seeing trends. So if you're noticing that maybe at the beginning of the month, you were able to hit 200 pounds on your squats, but then as the month went on, you actually weren't able to continue to hit 200 pounds because you were sore, you were tired, you were fatigued, then it's a good way to self-reflect and analyze if maybe some of the other areas like my nutrition and my sleep actually needs to improve so I can show up to the gym with energy, ready to hit those workouts and hit those numbers. So those are our 5 areas. If you could rank yourself out of 5, how you're doing with those will help you improve your strength a ton. And then for our challenge, if you want to improve your form and technique, and this week's prize, which one of our lucky challengers will win, is a one-on-one session with me to go over your big lifts, your squats, your bench press, your deadlifts, because they are very technical movements. Um, it's one thing to do them with safe form, but it's another thing to understand the optimal peak form and what muscles to engage and how to activate. So one lucky winner this week is going to get to do a one-on-one session to go over those big lifts and optimize them. And then if you are one of those people who right now you're not deadlifting or not bench pressing because of shoulder pain or back pain, or you're not squatting because of knee pain, please get in to see one of the recovery professionals on our team, Kyle or Kathleen, because they can help you dig into oftentimes problems that we can work on and chip away and get back to doing those big lifts. And then the self-analysis, like we just did, really reflect on those 5 key areas and think about if there's anything that you need to really double down on. Okay, so to be eligible to win that weekly prize, the one-on-one session, you got to fill out your submission on the computer at the gym for week 2, fill out those strength numbers, uh, which would mean that you completed your strength benchmark, squat, bench, deadlift. And then next week, Doc Kyle is digging into nutrition. He has an awesome presentation prepared and an awesome little activity that he's going to have you do that's going to be a very valuable takeaway. And then, like I mentioned, your chance to win this week, one-on-one strength session with me to work on form and technique for the squat, bench press, and deadlift. Does anyone have any questions before I hit save on this recording? Thank you for joining me tonight. Fun to talk about strength and our strength metrics.
Adam,
Saw a couple people unmute maybe if you guys want to
Adam, can you hear me?
ask some questions.
Hello? Adam? Can you hear me, Adam? No.
I can hear you.
Okay, but I think
I don't
Adam
know why Adam can't.
Adam cannot.
Oh,
Hi, everyone.
oh, there we go. Hey, Zeus, I can hear you now.
Okay, excellent. Um, Adam, I just wanted to ask about the difference between power and strength when you're training, because they're so close to each other, right? In the number of
Yes.
reps. So what do we need to be doing differently when we're training for power and for strength in the way that we do the rep? Is there a
Yes.
difference? I guess the question, because they seem so close, right, in terms of rep count.
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, strength is I like to think of the athletes that when we think of power, we think of speed, we think of explosiveness, we think of a Olympic lifter or or a sprinter. They have
Mm-hmm.
power. So those lifts should be very dynamic. Olympic lifters, like in the Olympics, snatch and clean and jerk, they're moving at high speeds, they're moving explosively, they're moving with power. So you actually want, for power, you actually never want to lose the speed of the concentric movement. So you're coming down under as much control as you need to, but then you want to always be able to accelerate and drive on the upward part of that movement. So if you're wanting to build power, you need to always make sure you have that speed involved in the concentric part of the lift. When I think
Okay.
of strength, I think more of whole like building like we're doing right now with tempo work, with pause work, with slower reps. Strength is that ability to produce force over a period of time. Sure, it's not a huge period of time, but you're grinding through the reps a little bit more. So it's okay to be a little bit slower. It's okay to fight through the reps a little bit more because you're at a little bit lower of a weight relative to your max. So the 1 to 4 reps, you're going to be close to your one rep max, let's say, where when you're at 5 to 8 reps, you're a little bit further away from your one rep max. So even if you weren't able to complete the lift, as you push and grind and dig into that lift, you're not at like your, maximum load.
Okay, so that's helpful. So strength you should be doing at 80% plus of your max. Power is
Okay, so
very close, 70, 80 was it?
I would say, okay, great point. I didn't really dig into that too much, but I would say power is 80 to 85% plus. I
Okay.
would see a lot of strength work, and I've gone wrong with this in the past, but strength work is done between like 70 and 80%.
Oh, so it's lower
Okay.
weight than power. Oh,
Right. Okay.
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 Interesting.
So because the reps are lower in that power movement, right, then we can be at a higher percentage of one rep max.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because power
Right.
is fewer reps. Okay, power is
Right.
fewer reps, higher weight. Strength is
Exactly.
a
Right.
few more
You might
reps,
only do
lower
like
weight.
2 really crisp reps at 90% of your max, where strength you might try to get like 6 to 8 back squats
Gotcha.
at
That makes sense.
75% of your max.
Okay, that's
So
true.
power is that top end of the percentage.
And
Strength.
then hypertrophy stacks underneath
Oh,
power, or sorry, strength, or are you doing a similar range? You can't. It has to be less, right? If you're doing more
right.
reps, so it's a bit under
So
the strength.
a lot of hypertrophy and I think you started just after our summer shred phase. A
Yeah.
lot of it happens around like 50 to 60%
Oh, really?
of
Okay.
your max and like at most 70% because you're wanting to create that muscle burn. And the only way you can create that is at like 10, 12
More reps. Yeah.
more reps or going like so slow with some really slow tempo and pauses and that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay, that's
power is like that 85 plus, strength is like 70 to 85, and then hypertrophy is more like 50 to 70%.
that's
Lot,
helpful, Adam. And then
lots of
final question here on this: is there
yeah.
a relationship to heart rate between
Yeah.
power strength, and hypertrophy when you're doing them, or is there no difference really in terms of how your heart rate is behaving when you're doing these things?
Yeah, so I would say strength and hypertrophy is likely going to get your heart rate going a lot higher.
Okay.
Strength than
Yeah,
hypertrophy.
I guess. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Power, not as much because your sets are going to be short, right? And they're going to be really high quality, but they're not going to fatigue you
That's
as
not.
much because you're going to be explosive and powerful. Strength and especially hypertrophy are going to be tougher, grueling sets. So those ones are going to get your heart rate up more.
Gotcha.
More. And then, of course, muscular endurance, which is like push-ups, sit-ups, like body weight or really light reps. That's going to get your heart rate up, but it's not building a lot of strength or even hypertrophy because you're not you're not lifting enough weight relative to your max to make it a difference.
Gotcha. That's helpful. That makes
Cool.
sense.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great addition with those percentages of max. That's great. Anyone else have any questions before we hop off here? All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys joining. I will share the link if you want to go back to any points and listen to them again. But appreciate you guys hopping on, and I hope the challenge is going great so far. We're just getting started, and it's going to be an awesome 7 weeks. So thank you.
Thank you.